What we doing here? Where you from? Ex Matres.
My name is Zed. This will be the first video for Ex Matre. Trigger warning. This channel will only focus on religion and how it's not necessarily correct. If that is not something you are interested in, please leave this channel now, but recognize that you may come back when you are ready. That's the point of this channel. So thank you. Alright, so what is the point of this channel? Well, when I was going through my deepest, darkest times, I lost faith. I recognized that the story of Genesis did no longer provide for me the answer of what we're doing here, where we came from, and where we go when we're done. So I did my own investigating. And not that I am a perfect person, because I recognize that we all have the ability to see patterns that may not exist, to make patterns where there are no patterns. So, my hope is by sharing this openly with the world that we can discover a better understanding than that which Genesis provides. And unfortunately, because Genesis has been around for so long, it gets far more respect, it's involved in far more tradition, and it has seeped its way into almost every aspect of our daily life. So it is my belief that racism, freaking sexism, and anti-LGBTQIA plus hate comes from Genesis and the religions that are spawned off of Genesis. It is supposed to give us an understanding of this universe and our place in it, and I feel as though it fails. But I do have something that could replace it, and it is not something that I want to be the head of. I'm not trying to be some new pope. It's me, the pope. No. The whole point is that it's our understanding. It does not belong to me. It is not something we could consider intellectual property. It is our story. So my hope is to create a place where those who are also looking for a better understanding can come together. That way we can bounce ideas off of one another to discover what is our point here. Where did we come from? Where do we go after we die? What is the point of everything? So right now, the options that, mainstream say that are out there are either you have faith, which means you have purpose, you have a plan, you know where your morals come from, you know what happens when you die, you know that you are here to serve the Lord. Or you're just a hunk of random molecules that are floating around, randomly, but no. I think that we are a combination of these two ideas, with a large exception that the male-centered version of Genesis is the exact opposite of the world in which we live. So I will be very strongly opinionated when it comes to Genesis, because in my opinion, it was a story created by men to flip our understanding of the natural order on its head, on purpose. Not as a mistake, not as we think we understand how the world works and this is our best guess at it, so we're making this story. No. It is my belief that there were people in a time when we were starting to understand the natural cycle, understanding that the many gods that we once assigned to the mundane activities that we see in nature all the time, not mundane as in they're boring, but in the things that just habitually happen, sun rising, sun setting, the seasonal changes, the tidal waves that might come in, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, all these now have to be explained, lightning, thunder, all those. And they were realizing that, oh wait, maybe it's not these godly beings, maybe there's actually like a natural rhythm. And they recognized that that natural rhythm had one being at its center. Mothers. The female form at its greatest. And they said, oops, well, that can't be the answer that we have, because then women will be put on a pedestal, they'll be treated with respect, close to godliness, so on and so forth. We'll have to be kind or gentle or whatever is a feminine attribute. So no, we're going to create a story that exists before any story could ever exist. in the beginning. And we're going to make sure that there is a male character at the center of this story. Not only that, the first human that this male character is going to make will also be a male, made in his image. And it is my belief that that story was put in place to ensure that a long line of men would be able to claim that they are the true both representative and representation of this godly being, of the King of Kings. But it allowed for them to suddenly become kings. Not just village elders, not chiefs, not diplomats, not somebody who was a part of, a community, but instead they were the one representative that knew it all. They were the ones that you now had to pay homage to pay homage to those who existed above them. The fallout from this manipulative story is that it placed men at the top, saying that men were the apex. They were the truest of the natural form. And again, that's inaccurate. It is the female form, the mother form, that is the center of this world, this universe, this existence. So, what have I discovered? Well, I was just simply asking myself, where did I come from? So without having any kind of other influence, just keeping my mind as blank as possible when it comes to religious aspects, where do we come from? Well, I came from my mom. Well, yeah, but your dad helped a little bit. Well, sure, he did contribute a little bit of genetic material at the beginning. Fortunately, I come from a home where my dad left, so the idea that he was just the sperm donor, that's been around for a lot of my life. So what did he contribute? Well, he contributed his sperm. And once he did that, my mother took over. All the food she ate, all the drinks that she drank, all the air that she breathed, suddenly was combining to allow this person to create me inside of them. Something that for a very long time would be unable to live on my own outside of my mom. The perfect place for a new life to grow. And after a little bit of time, I was born. I mean, I was a cesarean, but I was pulled from my mom's body as a living, breathing, new human being. So that's where I came from. But where did my mom come from? From her mom. Where did her mom come from? You go back and you go back and you go back and you go back. Okay, so now we're at the beginning of humanity. Past, now we're going past primates, our primate ancestors. Okay, so now we're at the beginning of life. Well, I guess we can't even go that far. We go back to being an asexual species. So this is the idea that there is one parent who's basically able to duplicate their own genetic material and create more life. That's more or less just a copy of who they are. But what was that gift that they had? What allowed this thing, this asexual thing that's neither male nor female, to make new life? It's the very same gift that our mothers had. The ability to take in things from her surrounding area, use those inside of herself to create something new, and then allow it to exist, where then it would go on to essentially contribute in the same way, that it could also do this same trick, that the motherly love, the motherly skills of creation were passed down from mother to mother to mother to mother to mother. Okay, so now we get at the beginning of what is life on Earth. The very first asexual mother, the single-cell organism. Well, how did that come to exist? Where did that get the gift of motherhood? From the universe. What? Crazy guy, what are you talking about? Hey, don't call me crazy, please. The universe. This earth that is now our home was created through many, many, many explosions of stars, of suns. Suns that had the exact same gift that our mothers possess. The ability to take in those things that are around them, to change them within themselves, and then put them out into the world where they too would be able to continue on in this fashion. And that's what happened. Suns blew up. So we go back to the very, 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 very first sun, soon after, the Big Bang. So the very first sun ignited because some wave of pressure, and suddenly there was, enough pressure on this hydrogen, being the one by one block of, genetic material, not genetic material, of molecules. So the simplest of our periodic chart, and it all compressed together and ignited the very first sun, the very first star. And it probably burned super hot, super fast, faster than our suns exist now. But it used that skill of taking things in, taking in that hydrogen, putting it under immense pressure, immense heat within itself, and eventually its life ended. And I don't know if suns are continuously creating new material as they burn, or if it's just that they gather it up and then when their life ends and they explode, they then let out that material. I could do a little research to find it out. But the point being is that that's where this material comes from. And now instead of it just being hydrogen, now we might have a little bit of helium, the 1x2s. And it just keeps going and going and going. And stars explode, and then new stars form, and they explode, and suddenly there's enough complex material, more complicated, elements, that suddenly we're getting little planetoids. It's not just gas anymore. And eventually we get to the point where there's so much material that we can have something like Earth that's made up of all that we see on the period. Well, not all of it. We've added a little bit ourselves, but almost all that we know of on the periodic table of elements. Periodic chart, you get my point. Man, vocabulary's not too strong today. But yeah, that is the gift. That gift of internal creation. Taking something within oneself, converting it into something brand new, and then releasing it into existence so that it too can contribute to this same pattern. That's the point of what we do. So what does that mean the purpose is here in this universe? Well, I would say that it would be to progress, to grow, to advance. What we might understand as the ability to become the best versions of ourselves so that we can have children that are the best versions of themselves who in their lifetime will be better than we are now. Then we'll have grandchildren that are better than their parents, great-grandchildren that are better than their parents. And if that keeps continuing on, where do we go? Is there an end to the progress? We don't know. That's the amazing part. But we do know that right now we are being held back from progress by a story that has inspired religion. Phone's ringing. Dentists. So where did it come from then? The very first star that had this ability, how did it have the ability to bring something into itself, this motherly gift? Where did that come from? Well, and that's the same thing, the same problem we come to at any story that we have for ourselves. What caused the Big Bang? What was before the Big Bang? What caused God? What was before God? Well, none of us were around back then, but I would say that based on the understanding that I see here in the natural world, the idea that creation only happens in a mother, it only happens internally, and then is allowed to come out. That the best thing I could come up with is that there was a mother, almost like a God being. Could picture it as any kind of mother. look just like your mom, could look like your wife, could look like you, could look like June Cleaver for all we know, could be a snake, could be, doesn't matter. The idea is there was something that had this motherly gift that existed and just floated around almost like Space Baby from 2001 and experienced what it was like to develop, to grow, to progress. Maybe this individual, as they were floating around, were able to learn about themselves. Maybe they did a little self-exploration and had some pleasure and recognized that there were so many possibilities to just existing. But this mother figure was all by herself and thought, what a wonderful thing to share with someone else. What an amazing thing to share with another person if they were able to be here. How could I do that? Well, that's when I think that that motherly gift was born. That the Big Bang was this first being recognizing the potential and the beauty of existence and wanting to share that with each and every one of us that has come to exist thus far, to all those who will exist in the future. And in doing so, just like the first star, took everything within herself and released all that potential that now is shared by you and I. But it's not something that gets to last. It's something that we have to share with others. So we get a little bit of time here, our time to progress and advance and learn and grow as much as we can. So what are we doing here? It is my belief that we are here to become the best versions of ourselves. It is my opinion that the best versions of ourselves do not need to split ourselves up into smaller little subgroups and contingencies that are unable to work together. The best of ourselves is not saying that we are not allowed to do certain things because of a sky god who tells us what to do via some people that are in very powerful positions. Powerful positions that generally mean the rules that they are putting out to you don't necessarily apply to them. That we are being held back to benefit a very few of us, when in fact this entire existence is a gift to all of us, equally, and it is a gift that we received from our mothers. There is a reason why animals will migrate across the world for even the opportunity or the possible chance of mating. That's because at the center of this natural world is the mother. Just how at the center of our solar system is our star, is the mother of the universe. This is the understanding that I have come to realize, that women should be equal not because we allow them to be equal. They should be equal because they are superior. That men, those who look the same as I do, we are the secondary form of what is the female. Our penises that we tote as being this great thing and da-da-da-da-da is actually an inside-out vagina. The reason why I have vestigial nipples that serve no purpose, is because I am based off of the original female form. That we know that nipples are needed to feed your young. So if I were the original form, as Genesis says, why would I have nipples? Wouldn't I be nippleless? Wouldn't it only be women that had the nipples? Why would God have nipples? We are supposed to be made in His form. Which goes back to the story of Genesis. The reason why ultimately I've realized that it's a story that serves no purpose to me is because it claims that men came first, that Adam existed before Eve, that God, the greatest creator, the first creator in this world, created not within himself, but with his hands, in much the same way that men create now, because it is the only way that we have to create. We can only take things that exist already and put them together some way. We have the ability to change things outside of ourselves. We have the ability to create something new outside of ourselves. But so do women. But men do not have the ability to create within. This is how I know that we are the secondary supporting form. We are the gender, the sex that when you look at lions and you say that the man is the alpha male, no, the man is the first line of defense. He is the thing that stands between anybody from the outside attacking the females and the children. His job when he goes and fights some other male is to prove to those women that he is an acceptable guard. Look at me. I have the ability to stop the strongest among us now. I will probably be the one that's more capable in the future. Pick me. The reason why the plumage of any kind of bird when it's beautiful is the male, because it is our job to attract the far more important female, whose body does not need to put out beautiful feathers. They're already amazing. They have the talents of a goddess. They are the reason why we're here. They're the reason why any of us have this ability to manipulate our understanding of this world. It is a gift we've all received. And I get that in this world, it is definitely a male-centric world. This is a man's world. And it also explains why there's so much hate, why there's so much fighting. Because those who are not supposed to be at the head of the family are sitting alone at the head of the family, who use so many different kinds of manipulations to keep their seat of power, when in fact they just need to step down and recognize that this is a world that is mother-centric, that the kindness and empathy that they tell us are weaknesses are actually the strengths of this existence, this shared existence. None of us chose to be born in the nation that we were born, under the religion that we were born under, with the leaders that we happen to be born under. But this existence, this world, this reality, this life that we share came from our mothers. So, I'm willing to bet that in the science community, there are many people that will hear this and either say, holy shit, yes, that absolutely makes sense. And some that are going to tell me that there are certain things that refute. And I've looked for certain things, so sea spiders and, what are they called? Seahorses are two species that the male ends up carrying, the babies until they're able to get out into the world. Which, sure, I recognize that there are very few examples where the male is required to do more when it comes to the child rearing. So with the seahorse, man, I don't know why that one's eluding me today. The idea is that his penis isn't long enough to get in, or there's not enough of a seminal fluid for him to be triumphant in fertilizing all the eggs if they were laid out or in the lady. So instead, they've come up with a system, because life is amazing, where he instead takes them into himself in basically like a pocket, and then he inseminates the eggs. So essentially a way to ensure that those eggs that were created by the mother did get fully inseminated to then have the ability to grow. So she instills it with all the abilities that it needs. It just needs that fertilization to make sure that it can go or continue on. Gets the other half of the ingredients. And yeah, I don't know about the sea spiders. I didn't really do that much research on those. Plus, it was like 2 years ago. But yeah, my hope is that this provides a better understanding, gets us closer to what is a true understanding of this world. Because I don't know if it's right. This is an idea that I came up with while my wife was pregnant, while I was seeing this amazing transformation happen in front of my eyes. I'm also an individual who was raised around many, many, many females. So, again, my dad left early. I was in a mother household where I saw my mom work her fucking ass off just to ensure that we had enough to get by. So I will always have a special place in my heart for women. To me, they've always been stronger than men. So even when I was in the military, people would talk about, like, oh, women in the service, because I was in a combat MOS, so it was mainly dudes. Women and their periods, blah, blah, blah. And my argument was always like, really? Because I have sisters that are fucking more badass than you. And if I were in a fight, I'd rather them be at my side than you guys. So don't give me that bullshit that guys are tough. No. If anything, guys are, they appear to be tough. A woman will appear to be meek and then be tough in the situation because that's what's required of them. But again, neither here nor there. It doesn't have to be a sexist idea, but the idea that we use the story of Genesis to then tell us what is and is not acceptable in this reality, it bothers me. It bothers me to see people that are in the LGBTQIA plus community that feel as though they are not true, good people because somebody else has told them that no, this story, this standard that we hold everybody to, you do not meet the grade. Yeah, no one meets the grade because it's a bullshit grade. You do not have to adhere to those goofy ass standards. This existence was given to you as much as it was to those who try and judge you. You have just as much a right to be who you are, who your heart and your mind tells you are on the inside, as that person who claims that they know the answer, because they do not know the answer. They know an answer that works for them. Okay, that's okay for you. But if you were to take a little bit of time to even question that answer that you're so ready to throw on other people, I'm willing to bet that you might be like, oh, yeah. Because each of us has our own God. Most of us don't go to church and then fundamentally believe every single thing that's in that Bible. No, we all have our different renditions. Even growing up in a Catholic family, there were certain things that we would adhere to and not adhere to. So when Lent came around, it was like, yeah, it would be nice if you could give something up, but, sometimes you're not going to be able to do it. And it's okay. You just have to ask for forgiveness. Okay. Well, my God wouldn't require women to be, subservient to men. I understand that God is going to be a little bit different. Okay. We all do those. We all do these little caveats within our own faith. Because the story itself does not actually speak to us. It is a story written by manipulative men thousands of years ago. But because we now see it as being something that is true to us, that we hold near and dear to our own hearts, it's something that we're not willing to give away. And again, that's heaven. Heaven is the biggest thing to have to give up. Because returning to the earth, allowing that which made up you, that your mom was able to pull together to create the starting you, and then that you were able to feed and water and so on and so forth and have the ability to grow, all that kept you alive now goes back into a system that will allow something else to live. be it your children, your grandchildren, a future snake, a mosquito, so it's not necessarily reincarnation, but it's the idea that all that makes up who you are will be used to make up whoever is in the future. We're all here on borrowed time. We have a small window to become the best versions of ourselves, to make the best of this world. One of my favorite things, like as far as old fables or things that have to go with religion, is the allegory of the spoons. And I don't remember word for word what the story is, but essentially there's somebody who has the ability to travel to both heaven and to hell, and then is basically telling or talking about what they found. And they say that in heaven and hell, it's basically exactly the same. It's a bunch of people sitting around a table with enough food to feed everyone. And in both places, they have spoons that are far too long for them to feed themselves, or somehow it disallows them to feed themselves. So basically, it's an impossible task. But in heaven, everybody's feeding each other. And they're having a merry time, and they're laughing, and everybody's full, and it's just a riot. And down in hell, everybody's still trying to feed themselves and failing. So they're angry, and they're mad, and they're starving, and they're suffering. But they're in the exact same situation as those who are in heaven. That is our existence here on earth. We have the ability to make this more heaven-like or more hell-like. And there are certain stories that we're led to believe that allow us to justify making this world a little more hell-like, when in fact it should be our absolute responsibility to make this world more heaven-like, of helping out those who we share this existence, this gift with. So I get the rush to have the nicest cars, to have brand names, I get that desire. But does that desire come from within us, or is it because we're constantly shown these flashy things in reality? When you get something flashy, do you really feel good very long? Because my very first car, you get it and you're like, yes! And for like a month, a real good month, that you're just soaring. Oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever, even if it's just a beater. This is amazing. And eventually it just becomes your car. So you still appreciate it, but you don't have that same appreciation that you once had. Now there's new cars or a new phone or a new computer or something that makes yours a little bit outdated. Not that that's what factored into my thing. It was the car, Suddenly there's trash piling up on the passenger's, floorboard. So, but connecting with a human, the relationships that we share, the times that we have someone who pays our way before we even get there without even having met us, someone that's just kind, that's something that sticks with you. And that's something that we should be going for all the time. Not as a requirement, but as the idea that that's the point. That's the beauty of this existence, is to be around that table up in heaven with far too much to eat, with things that make it harder for us to feed ourselves, and realizing that we can spend our time and our energy feeding someone else in hopes that now they're free to feed another, and then another, and another, and eventually it comes to us, and now we're well fed. But somehow we have a story that tells us that we're supposed to be subservient, and that it instead inspires the greediness within each of us, where even now on like the southern border of the United States, there are Haitian refugees, people that had the worst things happen to them in their life, who left everything they knew and loved and their home. And they came to a country that was supposed to be this shiny beacon of a city on a hill, the place where there's opportunity and the land of freedom, and they got here, and they were kept under an overpass in squalid conditions And then finally, when we decided to do something about them after keeping them there for however frickin' too long, we say pass. Nope. Bye-bye. You need to go back to the place that you already decided had nothing left for you. The thing that you were broken up inside to leave in hopes of finding just some help. No, we're not going to help you. You have to go back. And this is a country where we have a majority Christian believers. The same Christian believers that hear every Sunday, potentially, about Jesus who washes, people's feet, who has the ability to create more food, to break bread with others, to kiss those who betray him. Turn the other cheek. Treat the least of me as though they are me. The least of my children as though they are me? Yeah. But we shouldn't. It's not to say that we have to just open our arms and welcome these people in there, but no, what are they looking for? They're looking for opportunity, for help, for the ability to put in a hard day's work to be able to provide for themselves or their family, in hopes that they might be able to go back. So we have all these greedy-ass businessmen that want to be able to pay people less money, but somehow it's not a good idea to set up a bunch of freaking factories and whatnot along our U.S.-Mexico border and ensure that those who want to come to this United States in the opportunity to make more money, to be an American, can then come here, provide some kind of service, get free lodging, some food, and all that kind of good stuff, and then also make a small wage. A wage that might not be quite at the minimum wage of the United States, even though it probably should be, because that's still not a very high number, but that allows them to set themselves up. So you want to be a citizen? This is kind of what it's going to be like to be a citizen. You want to stick around? You can. You can save up your money, and now you can buy a little house or start renting in an apartment. Start fighting for your citizenship. No, even that's not good enough. Instead, we're just going to say, fuck you, go, leave. We have no use for you. No room. No vacancy here. And it's going to get worse. Because, of course, there's climate change. And I don't know if you are a person that believes in climate change, but pretty soon we're going to be fighting over water, over the few crops that might be able to make it to harvest. And do you think we're going to be in a good position for that war? You and I, the common folk? No. We may be the soldiers in that war, but we won't be the ones that reap the rewards of winning or losing that war. So the hope is that we can come together before it's too late. Come together in the understanding that this existence, this reality, this life is a gift. It's not something where we should be so quick to take that life away from others. That we're so quick to say that, no, this is all our stuff and you can't have it. No. And no one's saying we need to go full-on communism. No. If anything, communism, again, is just another governmental thing that somebody used to take advantage of others. So I'm not suggesting any of the labels that we already have. I'm suggesting that we simply be the best of ourselves. Whatever we want to call that. So my hope here is to basically have this conversation, to start it up. It may not even be something that gets wildly popular with me, but hopefully I can inspire somebody else that is much more vocal or better words than or has better words than I have, that can actually have this take off. Because again, this does not belong to me. This is not mine. This is ours. This is our reality. Our search for understanding. I've only started this channel because I am tired of it not being out there. So I decided to put my money where my mouth was. Be the change you want to see in this world. Well, the change I would like to see is us being kinder, of us recognizing that our mothers are the best part of us, that kindness, compassion are not something that we need to turn our nose away from. No, that's the best part of us. Our morals don't come from God. Our morals come from the idea that there was someone who cared for us when we were unable to take care of ourselves. It was one of the first lessons we learned in this life. Some of us had really shitty parents, so maybe you didn't get that lesson as well as I did. But that's where our morals come from. That's who we learn to be. That's why there were villages and societies and communities before religion existed. Because that's been the truth. Yeah, I gotta go. Gotta go pick up my kid from school. But this is Ex Matre. This is essentially the conversation I'd like to have. But it's not something I want to just have with myself. It's something hopefully we can have together. So the hope is that I'm going to set up some kind of Discord or a live stream or something where I'm able to bring others in. That way we can have this conversation. We can find out what it is that makes this all work. Because I don't know if I'm right. I feel as though I'm right, but I don't know. I only have my perspective, my opinion to work with. But if I get 100 people, 10 people, 5 people, 1,000,000 people, well, suddenly we're working with a much bigger area. We have a much better chance of realizing what the truth is. So, my name is Zed. This is Ex Matre. Thank you for your time.